Hello, everybody. Welcome to this expert wellness series hosted by the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And our featured speaker is the lovely Andi Hess. I just want to welcome everybody. We have a lot of members. Thank you so much for being members. We couldn't do this without you. And also to thank those of you that are not members that have shown up today. You might be just a consumer that's interested in bringing more holistic and wellness approaches into your current lifestyle, your daily process. Maybe you are a holistic or wellness practitioner or a business owner that just believes in holistic living. So we have something for everybody. I do want to welcome you. I will be putting in some information into the chat about the Holistic Chambers. So if you're interested in joining us as a member, please check us out. And if you are a consumer here, just loving to learn from us, welcome. We Part of our mission is to be of service to you. Without further ado, I'm going to let Andi introduce herself. She's going to do it way better than I can. But she is an exceptional practitioner and a dynamic leader. She runs the Phoenix, Arizona local Holistic Chamber of Commerce group. We are so grateful to have her as part of our community. And Andi, take it away.
Thank you so much for that. As you said, I'm sure she'll introduce herself better. Do any of us actually introduce ourselves better? We don't tell the things that people actually want to know about us, right? So I love that. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you so much for having me today to do this talk on confidence, which I think is just such an important kind of keystone topic for every single one of us who's a human being, right? These are human problems. And I think that is what is so exciting to me about doing the work that I do. So I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a clinically trained hypnotherapist. I have a diploma in clinical hypnotherapy. So came from that side of things. And for the most part, work with entrepreneurs now. I still do some chronic illness and some more of the clinical anxiety sort of hypnotherapy. But my background is really in getting what you want. So I love it because that is the basis of everything, I feel like, right? So I started my career as a productivity consultant with Franklin Covey, helping kind of C-suite leaders back in the 90s figure out what it was that was important to them and how they would get what they want, and followed that up with some time in kind of corporate training, and then became a leadership professor. And so I spent about 10 years working with both students and massively large scientific research teams. That was sort of my area of expertise, is what we call the science of team science, in figuring out what their vision was and how they would get it. And I actually did just publish my story in a book called Six Figure Chick Scottsdale. It came out about 2 weeks ago, of what happened when I found myself in a hospital in Serbia, realizing I had checked off my entire bucket list at the age of 37, and asking myself then, what on earth am I supposed to do now? What's the rest of this? And realizing that there's something deeper to life, I suppose, than deciding what you want in some sort of checklist way that can just be, yep, done that, done that, done that. And so as a result of that, I left the university. I left the work that I was doing with the students, career coaching, the teams, visioning, and came into hypnotherapy and coaching. And with my first coaching clients, what I found was that they would come in and they would say, I thought I was doing career coaching, basically, right? That's what matched my background and my history. And I'd get these clients in my office and I'd be like, you don't have a strategy problem. This is not something where you need another tactic. You need another to-do list. That's not what's happening here. The problem is you're not actually able to implement the strategy you already know you need to implement, right? So I hear this all the time from Everyone, right? That's probably the number one thing people come to me with. I know what I want to do. I know what I need to do. I can't make myself do it. And so that's when I began to offer, because some of those very first clients were at least acquaintances, if not friends. And I said to them, the way I would deal with this is through some hypnosis. Been doing self-hypnosis since I was 10. And if I have a problem like that, I'm going to go and like do a visualization and try to lead myself through it. Would you like to try a visualization? And every single person who said yes had this like massive transformation just instantly. And all the people who said no, I watched them continue to struggle. And so that's when I decided this piece, this hypnosis piece, was the missing piece. For those of you who don't know me already, I am a huge fan of laziness. I have been obsessed my entire life with what is the laziest, easiest way to get this stuff done. And that to me includes, oh, I can change my brain in my sleep. Let's do that, because that sounds fantastic, right? I was ADHD and autistic growing up with no diagnosis, because we didn't diagnose those things back in the day. And so hypnosis came to me as this opportunity to change my brain the easy way, to work with my brain. And that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is, the problem today, and I'm sure that as I say this, you're going to be able to recognize it in yourself, is that most people have it backwards. Most people are waiting to feel confident before they take action. And you've heard all the buzzwords, you've heard all the cliches that, the action creates clarity and all those sorts of things. But still, we feel like I can't move forward unless and until I'm confident. Like that's the prerequisite. But neuroscience, and to be honest, experience shows that confidence doesn't come first. It's built after you do the thing. So one of the statistics that just absolutely, I was going to say baffles me, but it doesn't baffle me actually at all. And I'm sure it won't baffle you. There was, I think it was Harvard did a review and found that on a job application, men generally, and this is very, very, very general, but men will apply for something if they meet 60% of the criteria listed in the job ad. And women, and again, very broadly, very generally, will tend not to apply unless they have 100% of the criteria. Right. And I'm sure if you think about this back to a time when you maybe had to apply for something, and maybe it was a job, but maybe it was a grant, maybe it was business funding for your organization, maybe it was simply, an opportunity that you wanted to be able to take. And you look at the requirements and you focus on the ones that you don't meet. And when we see things like these disparities at these like higher levels of leadership in certain companies, part of it can be explained by the fact that the most like cocky and sure of themselves people actually meet the least amount of qualifications to do the job. And the ones who actually are qualified, but not completely like, or are hard on themselves or have the knowledge to know that they don't know everything, are not even applying. Right. So that is just one statistic example of what the problem here is today. And so today I'm going to teach you kind of my signature process really for helping your brain understand what confidence actually is. How do you get confidence before you get confidence, right? It's almost like saying, I'm going to go to the gym when I have the abs. Not really going to work well for you, right? You're not going to get what you want unless you step out and do it. So with that introduction to this topic, I'm going to share my slides. And let's talk about this. So I'm going to introduce you to a mantra today. So I want everyone, you don't have to unmute, I know we're on Zoom, but go ahead and say this with me. I want you to say it with me. I want you to say, I can handle it.
I can handle it.
Good. Thank you. Yes. One more time, a little louder. I can handle it. That's the theme.
I
here.
can handle it.
I can handle it.
Yes. Great. All right. Now, when I first started saying that to myself, one of the things that I realized, especially as I started telling clients about it, right, is that actually makes me sound kind of scared, right? This idea that like, ooh, I can handle it. Like that feels like the kind of saying that isn't so much confidence inspiring, but it's really actually the opposite, right? We live in this culture that tells us that to be confident is the prerequisite. Like I was saying, like just believe in yourself. If you're confident, then go ahead and take action. And like I said, neuroscience shows that confidence does not come first. It follows action. It follows doing the thing. Another really fantastic example of this is the word courage. Okay. So you actually can't have courage if you're not afraid. If you were going to go do something, but you weren't afraid to do it, there would be absolutely zero courage required. And no one would call it a courageous act, right? People would call it a courageous act because you're scared. So we have a lot of these things in our culture, a lot of these expectations, confidence, courage, so many parallels to this, where we feel like, for courage as an example, we feel like we have to be able to get rid of the fear and then we'll be able to be courageous. And it's the exact opposite. There is no courage without fear. And confidence is the same way. There actually is no confidence if you don't have a little bit of maybe potential fear to get over, maybe potential recognition that you don't know what this thing is yet. But confidence isn't having no fear. Confidence is just knowing that you can handle whatever shows up, right? Say it with me. I can handle it. Good.
I can handle it.
Good. Think about this. So when someone walks into a room confident, it's not because they know every possible outcome. It's not because they've already, figured out how this is going to run. It's because they believe that whatever it is they're doing, they can handle it, right? So think about some time that you've ever thought, oh, that's going to be super easy. And then you get into the thing, you start doing it, and you're like, oh, goodness gracious, this is not easy. I better get out of this or figure this out before somebody finds out I have no idea what I'm doing, right? Like when we think we actually know what we're doing, often we don't. So that's not what confidence is. But it's almost like the printer, right? Like, okay, the first time you absolutely cannot handle it. It's like that printer at work. And then after 5 or 6 tries, right? Suddenly you're the office expert and you're coming out and you'll be like, yeah, oh, I totally got this. Let me show you how it works, right? And suddenly you're like the printer person. And that's a silly example, but it's a visceral example. It's something we've all experienced, right? There's a time when you actually could not handle the thing. And because you didn't know enough to know you couldn't handle it, you were probably overconfident. That is just as true with the printer as it is for the big, scary stuff, the bigger, scarier stuff, right? Giving a talk to a group, or maybe it's just calling back the person who you talked to yesterday, who you now are worried, like, oh my God, do they even want to talk to me? Like, did I push myself in on them? Like, no, right? If someone is confident, it is because they believe they can handle whatever it is they're about to do. It might be an opportunity, it might be a goal, it might be a problem, but they know they can handle it. So confidence is built through action. It's the evidence that reminds your subconscious mind, I can handle it. And the brain only understands 2 things. It understands what it's done already and what it hasn't done. And unfortunately for us, it has a very different definition of pleasure and pain than what we do. Anything it has not experienced is considered pain. And anything it has experienced is considered pleasure to the subconscious mind. And if you think about that for a minute, there are lots of things you've experienced actually that are quite painful. And lots of things you haven't experienced that are actually probably quite pleasurable. And that's one of the reasons we use mental rehearsal, right? So an Olympic athlete, for example, and I think everybody has heard of this, they imagine going through the motions of their sport a million times more than they actually do it on the court or on the field, right? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between something you imagine vividly enough and something that you actually have experienced. There was a study they did. They actually showed that if you imagine working out vividly enough and often enough, your muscles get toned. Your brain and your body don't know the difference. And we can use that, right? Like I said at the beginning, I'm really, really big into how do we use our brain the way it wants to be used so that this becomes so easy, right? So if that's the case, what does the subconscious then need to know in order to create for you a feeling of confidence? If it's not what you start with, then what the brain is believing is that this thing that I don't know how to do, that I've never done before, is going to be hard and I'm not going to be able to do it. So instead, all the brain needs to know is, say it with me, I can handle it, right? All the brain needs to know is, yeah, I might not have done this particular thing before, but good Lord, I have done things that were harder. I have done things that stretched me more. I have done things that hurt more. And so whatever this is, the phone call or the opportunity or the stage or the really big challenge, whatever this is, all your brain needs to know is that you can handle it. It doesn't need to know that you know what to do, right? Just that as you move forward, you're going to be able to handle whatever that is. Now, I'm going to share a personal example of this. I also said at the beginning, I very much care about modeling this. Every single thing I ever talk about comes from something that I went through and then that I've guided my clients to go through. So fear of success. If any of you deal in any way with fear of success, you know that it's actually much, much, much harder to deal with than fear of failure. Fear of failure is a driver that actually makes you take action. Fear of failure means you're going to do anything that you can to make sure that you don't fail. Far more often, we're dealing with something like fear of success, which is why we're actually stuck, because fear of success means your brain will do anything it can to stop you from being successful. And that is a challenge. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, I talked a little bit about my bio, but the part that happened before the professor thing and before a lot of what I'm doing now is that I have a chronic illness, let's say that. I've had it since I was about 16. So basically always. And there were about 5 years where I could not get out of bed. I did not get a diagnosis. It took about 20 years for me to get my diagnosis. And I'm doing very well now. And that's not quite the point. But the point is that in my past, there was a time when because I didn't have a diagnosis, actually just thought I was dying, right? I had no idea what was going on. Nobody else knew what was going on. And so every single time my heart rate just would skyrocket. I thought I was having a heart attack. And because of that period of about 5 years that I just literally spent feeling like I was dying, and wondering if I was dying, I didn't realize it then, but just earlier this year, I realized there was a belief in my subconscious mind that I wasn't going to be able to handle the success that I called it. During that 5 years, I couldn't make a plan with you for Friday morning because I didn't know if I was going to wake up on Friday morning alive. And if I did wake up alive, if I was even going to be able to get out of bed and feed myself, let alone go to lunch or even have a meeting. And we didn't have Zoom back in the days, but so that would have all been out of the house meetings. But even years later, even after 10 years of building an academic career and another now 3 years of building this career and all the success and consistently showing up all day, every day in a life that isn't that same life, there was a part of my subconscious mind that was still in the back there saying, okay, but what if you have a relapse? What if you get sick and it takes you out for 2 weeks and you actually can't deliver all the stuff that your clients have already paid you for? What if you've signed up to give a talk and you wake up that morning and all of a sudden you're sick again and you are absolutely unable to do it? What if that happens? And I noticed it. I only noticed it actually because self-sabotagey things started going wrong, right? I at this point had I was crystal clear on my signature talk and everything, and I showed up to do it twice, 3 times in a row, and everything went great all 3 times in a row, except for the part where I asked people to step in and work with me. On one, the single slide with my QR code, literally just one slide, was like completely missing from the presentation. On another one, the QR code went to a completely different offer that was like a freebie, whatever, right? And it was like, oh my gosh, like I remember saying to my coach, like, I'm going to be successful despite myself, not because of myself, right? And maybe because it felt that way. But it was a moment I got off stage and I'm like, are you kidding me? And this was a pay to play stage, right? So like I had put in a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. It was a room that I knew, a room that I loved. And my slide was gone that I had checked 3 times the night before, right? Like, what was that? And so I went home like I always do. And I was like, okay, what is there in my subconscious mind? What is it that I'm fighting against? Because with the work that I've done, I recognize that almost always it's less about like, oh, here you need a tactic, you need a strategy, you need to do something different. And instead, it's almost always, what do you need to unblock? What do you need to let go of? What is stopping you from doing the thing you want to do? And so I held myself back unknowingly, right? Doing all the action, paying all the money, doing all the things. But my subconscious knew that I didn't believe I could handle it. So what did I do? I gave myself a new mantra, and it was, I can handle all the success that I call in. And I started playing with that in my subconscious mind. What would that mean? What would I need to let go of? What would I need to believe in order to know for certain I can handle all the success I call in? And side note, because I know there's some of you here in the audience, if you didn't know this, there's 2 different subconscious types. And for one of them, affirmations like this actually work really well. And for the other one, they literally backfire really, really big. So if you have a type of subconscious mind where you've tried, mantras or affirmations before, and your brain goes, nope, that's not true. You don't think that. Like you're trying to tell it, I love my body. And your brain just literally goes, no, you don't. What are you lying about? You're not broken. There's actually a completely different way you need to have affirmations so that your subconscious mind can grab onto them. So just quick piece on that. You're not broken. You don't have the user manual for your brain. And everybody should have the user manual for their brain specifically because they're all different. So for me, though, I can handle all the success I call in. That was a very useful mantra. And then what happens to make sure I'm over it? I got sick. Not in a chronic illness sick. I did not have a chronic illness flare. I had something stupid like the flu. But man, did it take me out for like 2 full weeks. Now I work with my clients on a rotating basis, and most of them are on an every other week sort of basis. So 2 full weeks for me was a full cycle. Like there were no reschedules, right? There was no opportunity for reschedules because that meant that I missed, like if I'd missed 1 week, I could have doubled up the next week maybe and put all my clients in so that I made up their sessions, right? But that meant I literally had to skip an entire round of sessions for all of my clients. And there was no way to make that up. And can you guess what happened? My brain had been telling me I was going to lose the whole thing, right? Something like that happened. Oh, all my clients, man, they're just going to decide, oh, you got sick. We're done. We want our money back. We want, we want you somehow to pay for this, right? Like we're done with you. Did that happen? No, not at all. Right. And on top of it, for a lot of my clients who are also entrepreneurs pushing themselves a little too hard all the time, it modeled exactly what you should do when you need to take care of yourself. And when I tell you that that 2-week period, not only did I feel like I had the flu, but like, you know how they say in order to go through a transformation, like the butterfly, the caterpillar has to become goo, literal goo, to dissolve into goo to become the butterfly, to have its cells rearrange. That is what that felt like. It felt like I had dissolved into goo. And when I came out of it, to the realization that nothing stopped, nothing fell apart, wasn't even behind on laundry, because guess what? When you stay in bed, there's no laundry. There's only like one outfit, right? Nothing happened. And I realized that what that experience represented for me was the culmination of this work that I had been doing on teaching my subconscious mind. Yeah, no matter what happens, I can handle it. I can handle all the success I call in. If it wasn't meant for me, if I couldn't handle it, it wouldn't be given to me. It wouldn't be. And to be honest, if I lost it, it would mean I couldn't handle it, right? Like, so it would be taken away so that I could handle what I was given. And still it wasn't, right? Even that fear, it wasn't, because I could handle it. And so, of course, I'm not the only one with this challenge. I'm not the only one with this problem. I have, hundreds of clients who are also constantly going through versions of this same thing, imposter syndrome or rejection sensitivity or fear of public speaking or any of those things, right? They're all this same sort of like, oh, good Lord, I cannot handle that. Whatever it is, I cannot handle that. Or more accurately, a worry of whether or not they can handle it, which you expect to know before you go do the thing, right? Which is what'll catch you up, because you can't know before you go do the thing. You can't know you can handle it until you actually have handled it, until you've done it, like the printer, right? And so some of you may have heard me talk before about my breakthrough roadmap formula, and it's got 3 simple steps. And this really is step 3. And so I talk a lot about this, actually. So step 3, I call follow the signs. And originally, another kind of term for it is this idea of surrender the how. And one of my favorite ways to talk about this is using the idea, like, if you knew you've got to commute to work tomorrow, right? And you know that there's normally an accident on that route to work, you can do things like give yourself a little bit more time, maybe. But what you cannot do is tell your brain or make a plan like, oh, I'm going to avoid this cross street at this particular time because there's going to be an accident right there. Like, the accident tomorrow morning is going to happen exactly at this corner, and so I'm going to go this other way, right? No. That we all instinctively know the accident hasn't happened yet. Your brain cannot plan for an accident that hasn't happened yet, right? And that's this idea of surrender the how. It's this idea that what you can know is if there's an accident, when there's an accident, even if I'm like 95% sure there's always an accident somewhere on my route to work. Like, if I lived in LA, I'd be pretty dang sure of that, right? What do I need to believe about what's going to happen tomorrow? I need to believe that when I get on the road and there is an accident to deal with, say it with me, I can handle it. I'm going to know how to follow the signs, the road signs. Literally, they're going to be, detour signs and cones and things like that. And I'm a competent human being who knows how to drive. So that means that I know how to handle it without knowing all the details, because it hasn't happened yet, right? Without knowing all the different ways it could go wrong, without knowing which corner that's going to be on, without knowing any of those things. All I need to know is I can handle it. And as I started trying to explain this idea and help my clients' subconscious minds pick up on this, I thought about a tree. Because, of course, hypnosis, right? Hypnotherapy. Do a lot with trees. One of the biggest breakthroughs was literally just one of my teachers leading a guided visualization of, like, what does a tree mean to you? Subconscious mind does all sorts of things. But I want you to think for a moment about a sapling, okay? A sapling, a baby tree, doesn't have a really strong root system, But instead, it's got this flexibility and adaptability. And it's very much like, oh, if the wind is blowing too hard, I'm just going to like bend over and then I'll snap back, right? Why? Because the roots can't handle it yet. But as the tree grows, as the tree becomes this massive, massive organism that all you can see, by the way, is the top. You can look at a tree and you can watch how it is holding all that canopy, right? All the branches, all the leaves, it's holding all that weight. And what your brain needs to know is just like that tree, even though you can't see it, at every single moment, the tree, the canopy, the branches, the leaves can only grow as big as the roots are growing down to handle it. A tree is never going to grow bigger than the roots can handle, right? And we don't get to see the roots. We don't get to see that there's also an existing downward growth that accompanies every single moment of the upward growth. And the same is true for you. When you reach upward, when you move to a new level of anything, ever, you are moving that way because the roots within you, all of the things that you've handled up until now, all of the things that you've learned up until now, all of the experiences that you've had, all of the other things that you've handled before, all of those things, those are the things that give you the capacity and the opportunity to stretch upward. You will never be in a situation that you can't handle. You will never be put in a situation you cannot handle. And you will never not be able to handle the situation you are put in. Let that land for a second. You may not be able to see your roots, but every single thing you've done so far in this life has prepared you exactly for where you are. And when you get a new opportunity, you will be prepared for that opportunity. And the strength within you to handle, to hold that canopy, to hold that opportunity is born in the moment you need to hold it. Always. Never before, never after. The roots grow at exactly the right pace for the branches and the leaves above. And the same is true for you. And this is all your subconscious mind needs to know. It doesn't need to know that you know exactly where the accident's going to be. It can't know that. In fact, it's going to have a problem with that, and it's going to self-sabotage because that is unclear information. All your brain needs to know is, I've done harder things before. I've done things that stretched me more. And I, whatever this is going to be, have the exact right experience and combination of root strength and whatever else, so that, say it with me, I can handle it. That is what confidence is. So what I would love to do now is help you ground this in your subconscious, because it's all fantastic. This is the point of hypnotherapy, right? It's all fantastic to know this logically, to cognitively be aware of this. But one of my coaches has a saying, you're not allowed to say I know this unless it's fully working for you in your life. Every time she says that, I'm like, ooh, the professor in me who like loves learning and like knows everything, man, that hurts. Right? Okay, do I know it or do I actually like know it? And that's a lot of why I use hypnotherapy, because there's one thing to know about it. It's one thing to understand it cognitively. It's a different thing to ground it for your subconscious. So I'm going to walk you through in just a couple of minutes. We're not going to do a full hypnosis session here. And if you're driving, please do not shut your eyes. Please do not go down into this. Come back to the recording later and do it, separately there. I'm going to stop share so I can see the whole screen. And of course, only participate if this feels safe for you and if you want to. But anytime I do a talk, I am determined that it is going to include a transformation within it. So I'd love to help you get a transformation today, right here, right now. So only going to be about 5 minutes. But if you would like to play, go ahead and close your eyes and take a nice deep breath. And I'm just going to guide you through an experience to really ground this in your subconscious. So deep breath, drawing in that inhale. And as you do the exhale, I want you to take a nice slow exhale, and I want you to give yourself permission to release everything that came before this very moment. Any thoughts, any tensions, there's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. It's just your time right here, right now. And we're going to have an experience together of what confidence actually feels like. Not as an idea, but as a state that your body recognizes, as a vibration. So with the next breath, just let your shoulders soften a little. Let your jaw loosen, your forehead smooths out. You might even notice that your breath just begins to find its own rhythm, just steady and natural, like waves coming onto the shore. And as you sink deeper into that relaxation and that comfort, maybe you begin to notice simple details around you, the air on your skin or the temperature in the room. Maybe you can start to become aware of the way your body is supported by the surface beneath you. And notice, you don't have to do anything. Your body already knows how to breathe, how to settle, how to find that balance. And so as you rest in that awareness, I guess I'll invite you to imagine that you find yourself outdoors. Maybe you're standing in a peaceful clearing or at the edge of a forest, somewhere beautiful, and you've got the sunlight just like filtering through the leaves of the trees. And in front of you is a young sapling, just beginning to grow. Its trunk is slender, but strong. And you can watch the way the breeze moves through its branches, and you can almost hear the gentle sound of the leaves brushing together. It's just like a whisper of possibility. And you can watch how the sapling bends and sways with the wind. It's flexible, not fragile. It doesn't resist the movement, it flows with it. And because it flows with it, every moment it stays rooted and it learns balance. And every moment that it moves, it learns strength. And as it stretches higher, something beautiful begins to happen beneath the surface. So you just watch it, and you watch the trunk strengthening, the branches widening, the leaves pointing upwards towards the sun. And at the same time, beneath the surface, the roots begin to grow deeper, spreading quietly throughout the soil. And you can watch them as they reach out, just searching, anchoring, finding nourishment. And from this viewpoint, you can see that for every branch that reaches upward, the roots reach downward just as far. Growth above and growth below. Balance, stability, and expansion. And now you can bring that image into your own body. So with your next breath, imagine your chest lifting and opening like those branches reaching toward the sky. And then with your exhale, feel your feet steady beneath you, pressing gently into the ground, like roots sinking into the earth. Every breath connects the two, inhaling to rise, exhaling to root, upward and downward, together, always. And as you breathe, you can say silently in your mind, I can handle it. And you can feel how those words land in your body. Maybe it's a lightness in your chest. Maybe it's a warmth in your core. Maybe it's just simply a calm knowing that spreads a little deeper with each breath. Because just like that tree, you don't need to know how tall you'll become. You only need to trust that as you expand, as you reach, as you move upwards, your roots will always grow to match. Every challenge, every opportunity, every next step you take simply deepens your foundation. So take another slow breath in now, imagining the sunlight just warming the top of your head and the steady earth supporting the soles of your feet. And between the two, there's a current, a flow of energy, just reminding you that you are both grounded and growing. And then maybe you can begin to create a picture of yourself weeks or months from now, facing something new. And notice how your body remembers this feeling. The calm, the steadiness, the quiet strength that whispers, I can handle it. And the knowing that whatever comes, of course, you can handle it. You always have, and you always will. So one last deep breath in and let it fill you all the way to your toes. And as you exhale, just let those words echo softly inside. I can handle it. And then as you allow the images to fade, sinking deep down into all the just right places to serve as your subconscious roadmap to the future, we'll go ahead and we'll close the door to the subconscious mind now at 0. And I'll invite you now to begin bringing your awareness back into the room where you're sitting. 1, 2, inviting the energy to flow back into your body, feeling it moving into your fingers and your toes. 3 is a
Good
deep
morning,
cleansing.
sunshines. How are we today?
3 is a deep cleansing breath, a beautiful sense of complete well-being. At 4, eyelids beginning to flutter. And at 5, eyes open, wide awake, and back to full awakening consciousness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake, and back to full awakening consciousness. How did that feel? Is there a sensation that you were able to get of what that really feels like? I see some hearts and stuff.
It feels really good.
Yeah. Have you ever heard somebody tell you, go raise your vibration, and not tell you what on earth that means or how to do it? That's what it means. And now you have in your body, you have the vibration. And you can go back to that anytime you want. You can go back to that sensation. You can create it in your body. You can take that 5 minutes and do it. I'm going to give you another resource here in a second. But you can go back to that sensation and you can bring it up, and then you can move forward in that way with that vibration. And I will promise you that your actions will be different when you take them from that vibration. So if you want to do that deeper, of course, that was only a few minutes. I've got a little gift for you. And I'll put the link in the chat as well so that you have it. But I've built you a little bit of a free bundle. So I wrote an entire hypnosis meditation journey on this. So I don't know, it's 15 or 20 full minutes, something like that. But it goes much deeper into this exercise. And so I've given you just a completely free download. Like you can download it onto your phone and have it in an MP3 and use it anytime you want. If you've not worked with me before, know that you can never do hypnosis wrong. Doesn't matter if you can see it, doesn't matter if you can imagine it, doesn't matter if you can pay attention, doesn't matter if you can stop your mind from wandering, doesn't matter if you don't remember a single thing, doesn't matter if you fall asleep. one of my favorite things about hypnosis. You literally cannot do it wrong. I promise. I promise. And I've got some mantra wallpapers, if you want them for your phone and your desktop, that are part of that bundle that you can use if you want to be reminded of this mantra, I can handle it. Which, like I said, was instrumental for me. And I know how instrumental it's been for my clients. So that is my gift to you today. And what I really just want you to take from this today is that you do not need to know all the steps. You do not need to know even what you are going to do. I don't care what it's for. I don't care if it's for dating. I don't care if it's for your business. I don't care if it is for, your health and fitness. I don't care if it's what you eat for dinner tonight. What I want you to know is you do not have to know any of that. All you need to know is that you have exactly what you need already right this minute to handle whatever that is. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be there. And with that, I'll say thank you. I hope that you got some sort of transformation for that. I hope that if you were driving, or if you weren't able to fully experience that, or even if you were and you want more, that you go get that recording and use it. I still use it like a lot, and I have my clients using it a lot, and I know it will help shift your brain the same way it's shifted for them.
Thank you so much, Andi, for being here and giving us this little experiment. That was lovely. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So I can't pull up the QR code because I'm on my phone. Do you have a direct link to that meditation?
Yep. And I think Jason just put it into the chat, but for anybody who maybe even can't access that, it's remixcoach.com/handle it, which, by the way, I very much like that link. Like, yo, handle it.
Oh.
You can handle it. You can handle it. But yeah, remixcoach.com/handle it. And it's just a download page. So I'll have a little portal there.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Anybody else have a quick question?
Susie in the chat, I'm so glad you needed that grounding. Me too. I feel very ungrounded. It was a new moon, but moving into Scorpio and all that. Yeah, we're needing some grounding. I definitely feel that.
It looks like Jason, you have a question?
Yeah, I love that meditation. Thank you. I love tree meditations. You had said that there is a certain type of person that needs to be presented an affirmation or mantra in a different way so the brain can wrap around it.
Absolutely.
Could
Yeah.
you go into a little bit of detail about that?
Yeah. If you, because I know everybody here obviously is holistically minded and everything, you can do a little bit of searching about suggestibility. So suggestibility is a concept that tells us exactly how your mind takes in information, right? And hypnosis is a learning state. That's why it works. And that's why we talk about suggestibility, because my only job is actually to know what language your subconscious mind speaks. So if you struggle with things like, I can handle it, or I love my body, like if you're going to go from, want to change a belief, current belief is I hate my body, new belief is I love my body. For a lot of people, that is way too big of a jump, because that is untrue, fundamentally untrue. So for one type of suggestibility, it's enough to simply repeat over and over and over again, and eventually the subconscious mind comes on board. There's very little resistance to it. It kind of knows it's not true, but it's still taking it in anyway. The other type, there's a strong resistance, and there's a kind of a knowing, like that's untrue and I'm not even going to entertain it. And so for those people, there need to be more steps in between, generally speaking, and they need to be indirect. So with the example of like, I love my body, you might start instead with something like, all bodies are different. That's not at all personalized. And if you are the kind of person who doesn't like affirmations or who they don't land for, you probably felt a difference in that, right? All bodies are different. Well, yeah, that's true. Your subconscious isn't going to argue with that, right? Like there's zero resistance. All bodies are different. So maybe then what happens after all bodies are different is Well, all bodies are different and they're all okay. They're all good, right? And there's even a sense like when you, again, you step this up in a ladder, right? It's still not about you yet. And so your mind can accept it a little easier because it has an idea about who you are. But logically, right, if all bodies are different and logically, if all bodies are okay or even good, then now you're closer to those next steps of, okay, then my body must also be good too, because logically, right, all bodies are good. And
Right.
so you get there in a very indirect, roundabout way. And I've had somebody ask me, I've actually had one of my clients who came back and was like, well, that pisses me off. Why do I have to do more work? And so I thought about this for a long time, and it's like, actually, it's not that you have to do more work. You have the same number of steps. But the first type of person has to repeat the same thing, the same number of steps you would have to take by doing smaller steps, right? So same amount of time, same amount of steps, same kind of setup there. It's just a matter of different steps. And generally the key is being indirect, saying something that is absolutely fundamentally obviously true and not at all about you.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. So logic states that when you go from thinking about everyone else, eventually you need to start thinking about your own self. So you pick an attribute that you do like I like my eyes. Then you work from there.
The
Is
same
that
similar process, right? Yeah, that's one option for it.
okay?
That is
Thank you.
also a little more direct. So that might work. And by the way, on the two different types, we're all both, right? So let me just also preface that, like, we are all both. If you're 60% one, you're 40% the other. And so there's going to be certain things that you actually can handle direct like that, and certain things that are so contrary to current beliefs that you need to be more indirect, basically always.
Thank you.
So yes, there's a lot of different ways to get at that, but generally speaking, go to something that does still feel true. And maybe if there's a lot of resistance, even that's not at all about you, because the brain will make that logic leap, the one you just said, right? If it's true about everyone, if it's true about all the time, all bodies, eventually the brain is going to go, well, I have a body and that must mean that my body's okay. And then you have the opportunity to go more direct into it. If that makes sense.
Sound advice. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I will use that moving forward.
Fantastic. I'm so glad. I use it all the time, by the way. Some of my clients are in the room I see, and they could tell you, like, these are things I use all the time. I'm bringing myself back to them all the time, over and over.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else before we move on with our day?
Can I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I really enjoyed it. And I just want to introduce myself. I'm Usha from Houston, Texas, and I do craniosacral therapy and distance healing too. And, we use grounding meditation in there too. And I'm glad you're doing it.
Fantastic.
We use different technique, grounding and walking through the process with the unlimited belief and others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what's so fascinating to me about this, and why I'm a part of the Holistic Chamber as a whole, is because when you do this work, and I think everybody here probably has experienced this, when you do this work, what becomes so striking is that everyone gets to a very similar place, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all actually fundamentally the same thing. And it's sort of, I think about it sort of the way you hear those near-death experiences, and they're all way too similar to be a coincidence. And it makes you kind of go like, well, I don't have any experience, but I guess like too similar to be a coincidence. That I'm likely to believe that. And the more you do of this work of talking with, holistic practitioners, of reading, books on manifestation, or even, ancient texts that talked about any of this stuff, the more you realize that everyone who goes on this personal development path, everyone who seeks, right, something larger, something bigger, something about how do you live this life, this human life that we're given, how do you do this thing, everyone who goes on that journey comes to the same conclusion. And it all sounds very similar, just like those near-death experiences. And it's like, huh, I'm pretty sure we're all told, okay, it's your job to go back and try to translate that for other humans. It's untranslatable, so good luck. Which is why we need all of the different translations, because some of them are going to work for some people and some of them are going to resonate with other people. And we need as many translations as we can get.
Mhm.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Well, Laura, I know we're at time unless somebody else has another question. I don't want to go over.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up and attending live. It's so much better when there's people to engage with and to be present and just be part of the community. So thank you. I know some of you are driving, you know, I think that's fantastic as long as it's safe.
Because you do not shut your eyes and like,
Yes, exactly.
go
We
into
don't do meditation when driving, but
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And let's see, next week, the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. It's our strategic table mastermind. So that is next Tuesday, same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Bring any questions, share your expertise. It's a good time. So I hope to see everybody there. Thank you, Andi.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
Have a great
Thank
rest of
you.
your day, everybody.
Thank you, Andy.